Welcome back to the Motivated Mind Zone. Glad to have you here.
Yeah, it's great to be back. We are diving deep today into a topic that, well, it sounds deceptively simple, doesn't it?
It really does.
But which is, according to our combined source material, the absolute foundation of long-term success. It's not just some, soft skill, it's cognitive steel.
Exactly.
Mm.
Our topic today is patience. And I know what some of you listening are thinking, especially those of you on a tough journey, like maybe mastering English. Patience.
Yeah.
Seriously. I need motivation. I need tips and tricks. I need to be fluent yesterday.
Right. And that right there is the problem we really want to dissect today. We live in this culture, that just screams for instant results.
Totally. Instant coffee, instant download.
Instant knowledge retrieval, everything now. So when a really deeply complex cognitive process, like, say, achieving fluency in English doesn't fit that instant gratification timeline, well, frustration kicks in.
Oh, yeah.
And motivation often just dies right there on the spot.
That exact moment when you look at your calendar and think, okay, I've been studying for 6 months. Why am I still translating every single sentence in my head?
Yeah.
That feeling, that's the universal stumbling block, isn't it?
It really is.
But our mission today, really looking at our sources, is to fundamentally redefine what patience actually is.
Yeah. Because we see patience commonly mischaracterized, right, as just passive waiting, like you're just sitting still while the world moves around you.
Right, doing nothing.
But our deep dive reveals pretty much the opposite. Patience is active, it's intentional, it's dynamic. It's what one of our sources calls, and I really love this phrase, strength under control.
Ooh, I like that. Strength under control. That core distinction is so vital for you, the learner. Patience isn't something that just happens to you while you wait around.
No.
It's the active choice to stay calm, stay focused, stay consistent, even when the progress you're making feels invisible or just painfully slow.
It's the engine, really, the engine that keeps running when that initial adrenaline rush of motivation, runs out.
Yeah, when the excitement fades.
And this is particularly crucial for language acquisition. I mean, fluency isn't a single product you can just buy off a shelf or a button you press.
Right. It's not an app update.
Exactly. It's more like a mosaic built piece by piece. One conversation here, one challenging article there, one small daily practice session. It all adds up over time.
And patience is the glue then. The thing that holds all that effort together.
That's a great way to put it. It's the glue that turns all that effort into sustainable, usable, integrated knowledge.
Okay. So if you're ready to maybe trade some of that anxiety for consistency and transform your waiting into actual wisdom, let's unpack our sources and dive into this foundation of sustainable growth.
So let's start with that relationship between motivation and patience, because it's key. Motivation feels great, right? It's that initial rush, that dopamine hit.
Oh, yeah, the honeymoon phase.
Exactly. The excitement of starting something new. You sign up for the classes, you buy all the books, and for maybe 2 weeks, you're just flying high. You feel unstoppable.
But that initial phase is kind of misleading, isn't it? Because motivation, by its nature, it's unstable. It's an emotion, and it's usually fueled by novelty.
Right.
But learning, especially something massive like a whole new language, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So how do our sources really differentiate between that short-term burst and the long-term sustainment?
Well, they define motivation pretty clearly as the starting impulse. It gets you out of the gate. But patience. Patience is the sustaining structure.
Okay.
So when that initial novelty inevitably wears off, and it usually does right around the 6 to 8 week mark,
That's when it gets tough.
that's when we hit what learners often call the V curve. That dip where the effort feels maximal, like you're working harder than ever, but the results feel minimal or even non-existent.
Yeah, right. The plateau.
Exactly. And that is precisely where patience needs to step in.
So patience is what stays when the excitement just disappears. It's that sheer commitment then to keep practicing even when you don't feel inspired.
Yes.
Or when you're tired. Or when life gets crazy busy, which it always does.
Mm-hmm. It's recognizing that your success isn't really determined by how you feel on any given Tuesday morning, but by the simple fact that you showed up anyway, you did the work.
That commitment is so important because fundamentally learning is often kind of an invisible process, isn't it?
Right.
Especially when we're talking about like restructuring our brains.
Absolutely. We often rely on that analogy of planting a seed, and honestly, it remains probably the best description we have.
It's such a powerful image. You put the seed in the ground, you water it, you make sure it has sunlight, the right environment,
Yeah.
but you don't actually see the root structure forming right away.
Nope.
Yet all the crucial work is happening underground,
Mm.
unseen. And if you impatiently dig it up every single day to check on the progress.
You kill a plant. Simple as that.
Yeah.
And the sources connect this directly to, well, brain science. When you're practicing your English vocabulary or working on your listening comprehension, you are literally forging new neural pathways.
Building roads in your brain.
Pretty much. And early on, these paths are fragile. Think of them like an unpaved dirt road. Consistency, which is fueled by patience, helps myelinate those pathways.
Myelinate. What does that mean exactly?
It basically means wrapping them in a protective fatty tissue, myelin. This makes the signal transmission along that pathway faster, smoother, more automatic.
Ah, okay. So it's like paving the road, making it a highway instead of bumpy track.
Exactly. So when a learner thinks, ugh, I practiced for an hour, but I still feel so slow, so clumsy, what they maybe don't realize is that their brain is actually busy paving that road, strengthening those foundational connections.
So patience allows you to trust that the invisible work is actually happening. It's kind of a leap of faith, but one that's grounded in actual biological reality.
Precisely. And that trust, that patient trust, pays the ultimate dividend, the aha moment.
Ah, yes, the magic moment.
Right. It's the magical reward of delayed gratification. It's that moment when a phrase or a grammatical structure that used to require conscious, really painful internal translation, breaking it down word by word, applying rules,
Yeah, like mental gymnastics.
suddenly just feels natural. The words simply emerge correctly without you even thinking hard about it.
But that moment isn't really sudden at all, is it? It feels sudden, but it's the accumulated result of those thousands of patient, often invisible hours of practice.
Exactly. It feels like magic, but it's just consistency reaching a kind of critical mass. And this is why the sources use another beautiful metaphor. Learning is like a slow sunrise.
I like that too.
You don't notice a sunrise minute by minute, do you?
No, not really.
If you look away for 5 minutes and then look back, you notice a huge difference in the light. But if you just stare directly at the horizon, the motion itself is almost imperceptible. Progress doesn't always look like progress in the immediate moment.
That's such a crucial insight for our listeners, especially those who tend to measure themselves daily or even hourly. Those small, maybe invisible moments like suddenly catching a nuance in a native speaker's conversation that you know you would have missed last month,
Right.
or realizing you just used a really difficult verb tense correctly without even stopping to correct yourself. These are the real, concrete proofs that your patience is actually working.
They are feedback loops confirming that cognitive restructuring is happening. And this shift in perception, this understanding, leads us to a really critical distinction our sources make. The real enemy in learning isn't making mistakes.
No. What is it then?
It's impatience.
Ah, okay, explain that.
Yeah.
Because mistakes feel pretty bad sometimes.
They do, but mistakes are essential data for learning. They provide the necessary feedback for your brain to adjust the neural pathway, to correct the course. Honestly, if you never make mistakes, you're probably not pushing yourself hard enough. You're staying in your comfort zone.
Good point.
Impatience, though. Impatience is the catalyst for quitting. When the learner sees mistakes not as valuable data points, but as proof of inadequacy.
See, I knew I couldn't do this.
Exactly that thought. And you combine that negative self-talk with a lack of immediate visible progress. Well, the easiest path suddenly looks like just stopping altogether.
It's like imagine if babies gave up after falling the first 20 times they tried to walk. We'd have a very sedentary species.
We instinctively understand that developmental processes require time and, frankly, iterative failure. Falling is part of learning to walk.
But as adults, we somehow forget that fundamental truth, don't we? Especially when we are immersed in what our sources call the now culture conflict.
Oh, it's pervasive. It's everywhere. We're conditioned by technology, by modern life, to expect instant retrieval and instant resolution for everything.
Our phones give us instant maps.
Instant communication, instant entertainment. It trains our brains for these really high-speed reward cycles.
Right. Click reward, click reward.
And then language learning, which inherently requires slow encoding, lots of repetition, and deep, effortful processing, clashes directly with this expectation we've built up.
It sets up a totally unrealistic standard. We try to apply the rules of, say, downloading a file, which is fast and finite, to the process of building a complex cognitive skill, which is inherently slow and, frankly, kind of infinite.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the sources state it so clearly, and this really hit me. English is not a product you download, it's a process you live.
Ooh, that's powerful. A process you live. It implies integration, right? Living the process means integrating it into your identity, allowing the language to actually shape how you think and communicate over time, rather than just seeing it as some external chore you have to check off a list.
Yeah, not just homework.
And patience is the framework, the mindset that allows you to tolerate the inevitable slowness and, let's be honest, the occasional frustration of that deep integration process.
This gets even harder, though, when comparison enters the picture. Comparison seems like the fastest way to absolutely kill patience.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. When you compare your, say, 6-month journey with all its struggles and plateaus to someone you see on social media who's claiming fluency in 90 days.
Right, those clickbait titles.
You are comparing your messy, private reality, all those roots struggling underground, to someone else's carefully curated highlight reel. You're seeing their visible blossom, not the years of unseen effort.
And often, you're comparing yourself to someone who might have started their journey 5 or even 10 years earlier, but they're only showing you their current success, right?
Exactly. It's the same destructive mental act as digging up that poor flower every single day to see if it's growing yet. You're disrupting the very process you want to encourage.
So is there any comparison that's actually helpful?
Well, the sources suggest the only comparison that truly serves the patient learner is comparing today's self with yesterday's self.
Okay.
Did you do the work today? Did you show up? Did you try something new, maybe something a little challenging? If the answer is yes, then you are winning, period, regardless of someone else's perceived speed or progress.
Focusing on your own lane, basically.
Mm-hmm. And this trust in your own process, in the invisible work happening inside you, it builds a very profound type of strength. Quiet confidence?
Quiet confidence. What's the difference between that and just, regular confidence?
It's fascinating, actually. Loud confidence is often performative, isn't it? It's about trying to convince others, and maybe often yourself, of competence you might not fully feel yet.
Yeah, fake it till you make it, sort of.
Right. But quiet confidence, that's different. It's internalized self-trust. It's built brick by brick on tangible evidence of your own endurance, your own consistency.
So when you maintain that consistency, you return to the lesson even when you totally bombed the quiz the day before. You start to realize deep down, okay, if I can keep going through these slow days, if I can survive these frustrating plateaus, I can actually handle anything.
That's resilience, forged through patience.
It's not a loud bragging kind of confidence then. It's more of a calm, steady self-assurance.
Exactly. It just quietly says, I'm on my way. And this leads to the ultimate realization, the core message here, I think. Fluency comes from returning, that consistent showing up, not from rushing.
Rushing makes you brittle, you break easily.
But consistency makes you strong, resilient, adaptable.
Wow. Okay, that summarizes the fundamental shift beautifully.
Yeah.
We need to stop seeing patience as just passively waiting and start seeing it as like strategic consistency.
Yes.
But okay, that's the what and the why. How do we actually do that? How do we build this patience muscle, especially when everything around us is screaming faster? That's what we need to dig into next.
Right. Because many people, maybe most people, assume patience is just an innate character trait, right? Like you're either born patient or you're not.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just not a patient person.
Exactly. But our source material is pretty much unanimous on this. Patience is absolutely a trainable skill. It's built not through some grand philosophy, but through small, deliberate daily actions, like any other skill.
Okay, so it's like going to the gym for your brain's patience muscle. What are the exercises? Let's look at the actionable steps we distilled from these sources. The first one seems to directly confront that now culture we talked about. Slow down on purpose.
This is such a powerful paradox, isn't it? We rush because we believe speed equals efficiency equals getting more done.
Faster is better.
But so often the sources argue slower means wiser. Rushing actually increases your cognitive load. You're trying to juggle too much too
That makes
fast.
sense.
And that heightens the likelihood of making careless errors, which then forces you to go back and fix things, ultimately slowing down the overall learning process.
I definitely see this with learners sometimes. They try to absorb like 100 new vocabulary words in one massive, intense session. They feel really productive in the moment,
Oh, yeah, that feeling of accomplishment.
but they're massively exceeding their brain's actual working memory capacity. And the cognitive science is clear. The vast majority of that crammed information is just lost within 24 hours. It doesn't stick.
Exactly. By consciously slowing down, you give your brain the necessary processing time. Time to transition information from that fragile working memory into more stable long-term memory. We have to differentiate between anxious rushing and intentional slowing.
Okay, what's the difference?
Rushing is usually a symptom of anxiety. I'm falling behind. I need to catch up. Intentional slowing, on the other hand, is a conscious strategy for deep encoding. It's choosing depth over speed.
So for the language learner, this might mean actually slowing down your reading speed sometimes to really ensure you're comprehending, not just scanning words.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe focusing on the quality of your pronunciation for 5 minutes rather than just trying to blast through a list of sentences. If you rush through lessons, you just skim the surface.
But if you slow down, you give yourself a chance to actually absorb the knowledge deeply.
And this leads directly to the mechanism of repetition, which people often misunderstand. Many learners feel kind of ashamed when they have to repeat material. They see it as failure.
Ugh, I have to review this again. I should know this by now.
Right. That feeling implies that repetition is a sign they didn't learn it fast enough. But biologically, repetition is the physical act of myelination we talked about earlier. It's how pathways get paved.
So it's the brain's way of saying, hey, this information seems important because you keep coming back to it. Let's build a permanent structure around it.
Precisely. Repetition isn't failure. Our sources frame it as patience in action. You are patiently, deliberately building a permanent home for that knowledge in your brain.
If you can embrace that perspective, it makes the second actionable step much easier to swallow, choosing consistency over intensity.
This is probably the single most important habit for achieving any long-term goal, not just language learning. Intensity is really tempting, isn't it?
Oh yeah, those 5-hour cram sessions feel heroic.
They feel like you're accomplishing a huge amount in a short time, but it's also incredibly exhausting and fundamentally unsustainable. It almost guarantees burnout down the line.
Whereas consistency,
Consistency always wins in the long run because it aligns perfectly with how the human brain actually forms habits and retains memory over time. It is infinitely better, according to all our sources, to commit to studying for, say, 20 minutes every single day.
Even just 20 minutes.
Even just 20 focused minutes every day rather than trying to tackle an exhausting 5-hour marathon session once a month.
Because that daily 20 minutes triggers the habit loop, right? The consistent time, maybe the same place, the routine.
Exactly. The cue, the routine, the reward, even if the reward is just ticking it off your list, that solidifies the behavior. The 5-hour session is just an event easily skipped. The 20-minute practice becomes a ritual, and rituals stick.
Think about the neuroscience behind it too, like the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve. We forget things rapidly after we first learn them.
Right. And spaced repetition systems, SRS, like Anki or Memrise, they're built entirely on this principle of consistent patient practice. They prompt you to review information at increasing intervals right around the time you're naturally about to forget it.
It's basically a scientific application of consistency over intensity, hacking your brain's natural forgetting process.
It's the patient, scheduled return to the material that builds long-term fluency, not the frantic, last-minute cramming.
Okay, so slow down, be consistent. What's next? Once we accept that consistency is key, we can move to the third step, which sounds potentially uncomfortable. Embrace the messy journey.
Yes. Perfectionism is such a huge roadblock to patience, isn't it? We have to start judging ourselves so quickly, so harshly. Expecting perfect results right now, especially in language learning, is just setting yourself up for guaranteed failure and frustration.
Because the journey of learning English, or really any complex skill, it's not a nice, neat, straight line, always ascending upwards. If you could actually plot your progress, it would look more like a really volatile stock market chart.
That's a great analogy. Some days you feel like you shoot up, you have a breakthrough. Other days you hit a plateau that lasts for weeks, feels like forever. And sometimes, honestly, you feel like you've actually slid backward.
I knew this word yesterday. Why can't I remember it today?
Exactly. Our sources call this the dance of growth. Sometimes you step forward, sometimes sideways. Sometimes you even take a step back to regain balance. But every step matters, even the ones that feel like regressions.
How can going backward matter positively?
Because those backward steps are often revealing crucial gaps in your knowledge or understanding that need more attention. They're signposts. Accepting the messiness is basically accepting human learning reality.
So if you can stop judging the mess and just observe it, almost like a scientist observing data, you can become a more analytical, patient learner. You stop saying, oh, I'm just bad at grammar. You start saying, okay, I seem to need more practice specifically on present perfect continuous. It becomes diagnostic, not judgmental.
Beautifully put. And once you accept the mess, you can finally engage in the fourth step, which our sources highlight as critically underrated. Celebrate small wins.
Ah, this feels good. This is where patience meets positive reinforcement, right? Most learners, we tend to be laser focused on the giant distant goal fluency.
Which is so far off it can feel totally abstract, maybe even impossible on a bad day.
Exactly. And just waiting for that distant milestone with no rewards along the way is a guaranteed path to frustration and potentially giving up.
You absolutely need to create micro successes along the way. Small victories that validate your patient effort right now, not just in some hypothetical future. These small wins are essential for sustained dopamine release.
The brain's reward chemical.
Right. Signaling to your brain, hey, this effort is worthwhile. Keep doing this thing.
So what are some practical examples of small wins for an English learner? It's not just passing a big exam, right?
Oh, definitely not. It could be something like understanding an entire paragraph in a novel without reaching for the dictionary,
Nice.
or successfully using a new, maybe complex idiomatic expression naturally in a conversation and having the other person understand you perfectly.
Or even just noticing that listening to a podcast episode felt slightly easier this week than last week.
Exactly. It's measuring the process, the reduction in effort, or the increase in comprehension, not just the final outcome. Instead of beating yourself up over the 10,000 words you don't know yet, consciously celebrate the 20 new words you learned this week and actually used successfully.
That focus shift seems key. Positivity feeds patience. Focusing on what is working prevents your mind from constantly dwelling on what's still missing, on the gap.
And this creates a really powerful internal feedback loop. Our sources point out that gratitude and patience are deeply linked. You really can't be truly impatient and genuinely grateful at the exact same time.
Hmm, interesting. How does that work?
Well, taking a moment to be thankful for how much you've already learned, acknowledging the progress you've made from zero, it automatically slows down that internal rush. It grounds you in the present reality of your actual achievement, however small it might feel sometimes.
Gratitude shifts your cognitive focus from scarcity, I lack fluency, to abundance. Wow, look how far I've actually come.
Yes, that patient perspective is essential. And finally, the fifth practical step, which feels particularly crucial for surviving the pressures of our digital age: disconnect and reset.
Ah, turn off the phone.
Sometimes, yes. Impatience is so often fueled externally, isn't it? We're constantly scrolling through social media, seeing everyone else's carefully curated peak performance, their highlight reels.
Yeah, look how fluent I am after only 3 months.
Right. This creates massive FOMO, fear of missing out, and feeds the psychological illusion that absolute everyone else is progressing faster, smarter, better than you are.
Which is almost never true.
Almost never. So taking intentional breaks, literally disconnecting from those external metrics, and the constant comparison allows your mind to truly reset its internal clock. It pulls you out of that frantic comparative urgency.
And it reminds you that your journey is unique, it's yours, and it doesn't actually require performance for an audience. It's about your growth.
And this defines true patience in action. It's not about waiting idly doing nothing. It's about waiting wisely.
Waiting wisely. I like that.
It means recognizing when you need time to rest, to reflect, and then continuing your actions with a sense of peace, detached from that gnawing anxiety that you are somehow falling behind an imaginary competitor.
And often, when you return from that intentional reset, maybe a weekend away from the grammar books, you find your problem-solving abilities feel sharper, your memory seems clearer, and your ability to tolerate those difficult practice sessions is somehow renewed.
That's the power of patient, intentional rest being built into the process, not seen as an interruption of the process.
Okay, so these 5 steps: slow down, be consistent, embrace the mess, celebrate small wins, and disconnect to reset. They give us a practical toolkit for building patience.
Exactly.
So we've moved from defining patience as this active strength to identifying the specific actions that cultivate it. Now, let's maybe widen the lens a bit. How does this trained skill, this patience muscle, transform more than just your language journey? How does it impact your entire life and your overall sense of confidence?
Well, it's fascinating because once patience becomes a practice skill in one specific domain, like dedicating time to English learning,
Uh-huh.
its core principles inevitably start to bleed over into every other area of your life. It seems to fundamentally change your whole view of success itself. Life just stops feeling like such a frantic, desperate race against the clock.
That's a huge shift because impatience is inherently stressful, isn't it? It creates this state of constant low-grade dissatisfaction where the present moment is never quite good enough because you're always anxiously chasing the next thing, the future finish line.
Exactly. Patience reverses this entirely. When you become patient, you actually start enjoying the process much more than just chasing the final outcome. And this reduction in internal pressure often leads to paradoxically better results because you're operating from a state of sustained calm and focus rather than panicked urgency.
And our sources strongly suggest that slow progress is almost always stronger progress in the long run.
Mm.
We used the analogy earlier of building a house. If you rush the foundation, yeah, the house might look finished quickly from the outside, but the underlying structure will be weak. It'll crumble under the first real stress test.
Whereas patience is like the careful curing of the cement. It's the slow, deliberate integration of all the materials. It provides those strong, deep foundations that allow the structure, whether it's your language fluency, a business you're building, or even a relationship, to actually endure hardship and last over time.
Fast success is often superficial, maybe even fragile.
But slow, patient success tends to be structurally sound, built to last.
Absolutely. And this foundational strength, this calmness, it seems like it would manifest almost immediately in your relationships with other people too. Patience surely helps you listen better.
Oh, massively. Listening is arguably the cornerstone of deep connection, right? When you're impatient in a conversation, what are you doing? You're mentally rehearsing your reply while the other person is still speaking?
Guilty is charged sometimes.
Yeah. We all are. You interrupt, you try to finish their sentences, you rush them along, or you react instantly based on maybe only half the information. And what does that create?
Conflict and misunderstanding, usually.
Right. Patience, on the other hand, gives you the mental space to pause, to actually absorb the full message, maybe even process the emotion behind the words, and then respond thoughtfully rather than just reacting defensively on impulse.
And people can feel that, can't they? They feel safer, more heard around someone who listens without rushing them or judging them prematurely. Patience becomes an act of deep empathy in that context.
It really does. But perhaps the toughest arena for practicing patience usually is internal. It's the skill of self-patience.
Ah, yes. Being patient with ourselves. That's often the hardest part.
It really is. This is where the deep emotional transformation really happens. When you start applying the same patience to yourself that you might offer a friend, failure stops feeling like this damning judgment on your fundamental worth.
Right. It stops feeling like I am a failure.
And instead, it just becomes information, a necessary step, maybe a detour in the ongoing learning process. We hold these incredibly high, often completely impossible standards for ourselves, don't we?
Way harder on ourselves than on others.
So much harder. If a friend is struggling with their English practice, we offer encouragement, support, you'll get it.
Yeah, keep going.
But if we struggle with the exact same thing, what do we offer ourselves? Usually self-criticism, maybe even self-flagellation. I'm so stupid, I'll never get this.
So self-patience is about learning to internalize that same grace we'd offer others.
Precisely. It's that constant, gentle internal refrain, I'm still learning, and that is okay. It's acknowledging that growth takes time, and not just intellectual growth, like learning vocabulary. It applies to emotional growth, psychological maturity too. You simply can't rush becoming a better, wiser, more resilient version of yourself.
And this internal forgiveness, this self-acceptance, it builds true resilience, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You stop wanting to quit every time things get difficult because you've granted yourself the fundamental right to struggle, to be imperfect, to be a learner.
You essentially replace the shame cycle struggle, feel shame, avoid the task, feel more shame with a constructive feedback loop. Struggle, observe, adjust strategy, try again.
And this fundamentally changes your definition of success itself.
Yeah.
You start to realize that success isn't really about speed at all.
No.
It's about direction.
That's a fantastic point. If you are running flat out 100 miles per hour, but you're heading in the completely wrong direction, well, that speed means absolutely nothing, does it?
Worse than nothing, it takes you further away.
Exactly. Patience forces you, or maybe allows you, to pause occasionally. To check your internal compass, make sure you're still aligned with your long-term goals, your core values. It keeps you steady on the right path, even if that path feels slow sometimes.
It also seems to completely transform your relationship with the present moment. Impatience, by definition, forces you to perpetually live in the future.
Always leaning forward.
Yeah, always worried about what's next, what's missing, what you still need to achieve. You're never really here.
And that mindset makes you miss out on so much. You miss the small, vital, enjoyable moments of actual life. The quiet pleasure of a morning coffee, the unexpected beauty of a sunset on your way home, a genuinely meaningful interaction with a stranger. Impatience kind of blinds you to the richness of present reality.
whereas patience brings you back to the now. It stops being just about waiting for the next milestone, and it becomes about living while you wait.
Living while you wait. That's it. You accept and maybe even start to appreciate the journey itself, the process, realizing that this present moment is the only place where true life actually happens. The future is just a concept.
Wow. And that's the essence of the transformation summary we found in the sources, isn't it? Patience transforms that internal frustration into a sense of calm. It shifts comparison into quiet confidence. And it turns waiting from a passive waste of time into active wisdom gathering.
It really is the ultimate life management skill when you think about it that way. It underpins everything else.
Okay, so we've talked about patience during the, let's say, the daily grind of learning, the plateaus, the small wins. But here's maybe the most critical question, the true test.
Yeah.
What happens to patience when life gets really heavy? When you face major setbacks, unexpected crises, or maybe the learning process just feels completely overwhelmingly impossible for a stretch.
Right. This is where patience really moves beyond being just a useful virtue and becomes genuine raw strength. We're shifting here from talking about mental discipline to talking about something deeper, emotional endurance.
Emotional endurance. Define that for us.
It's the ability to sustain your effort, your focus, and maintain your psychological equilibrium, your balance, during periods of prolonged difficulty or stress. It's like a muscle, an emotional muscle, that genuinely grows stronger every single time you face significant discomfort.
Or like maybe a really confusing grammar structure that just won't click.
Or maybe losing a job or dealing with a personal loss, and you actively choose to keep going. You choose not to collapse, not to give up, and critically, without allowing panic or despair to completely take over your system.
So it's about choosing peace then, is that right?
It's the conscious choice towards peace, yes. But importantly, it doesn't mean ignoring the pain or pretending everything is fine when it's clearly not.
Right, not toxic positivity.
No, definitely not. It means acknowledging the difficulty, allowing the genuine emotion, the frustration, the sadness, the fear to be present, but then consciously choosing your reaction to that emotion carefully. It's choosing peace when every instinct in your mind might be screaming for anxiety or panic.
That active choice sounds incredibly demanding, especially when things feel really bad.
It is demanding. And in these moments, patience helps you reframe the challenges themselves. They stop feeling like just random, cruel acts of fate or evidence of your own inadequacy.
But they become
Instead, they become valuable, albeit painful, classrooms, opportunities for deep learning.
How does patience help with that reframing?
Patience helps you cultivate the perspective that maybe, just maybe, time is working for you, not against you, even in moments of frustrating delay or setback. Think about that analogy of the tree roots again.
Growing in the dark.
Exactly. Roots grow in silence, in darkness, and often in really difficult, resistant soil. But that struggle, that unseen effort, is precisely where the tree's real strength, its resilience, forms.
Nobody stands around applauding the quiet hours the roots spend pushing through rocks underground.
Nope.
But those hours are the exact reason the tree can withstand a major storm decades later.
Patience helps you believe in the value of that foundational work happening during the difficult times. The refining of your character, the honing of your competence, the deepening of your resilience, all of which isn't immediately visible on the surface.
So it's fundamentally about trust then. Trusting that some delays aren't actually denials.
Yes, trusting that they might be necessary preparation. When you're forced to pause, perhaps by external circumstances or internal struggle, you often gain critical clarity or perspective that you simply wouldn't have had if you just kept rushing forward blindly.
The pause forces you to maybe acquire a missing skill you didn't realize you needed.
Or gather a crucial resource, or even develop the emotional maturity required before you're truly ready to handle the next level of success or responsibility that you're aiming for.
Our sources called this seeing the purpose behind the pause. That every waiting season, every frustrating plateau in your English learning, every professional delay is actually teaching you something vital.
Hmm. It might be teaching you resilience. It might be demanding a pivot in your strategy. Or maybe it's cultivating the empathy or humility you'll need further down the road.
It reminds me of the principle of tempering metal. Strength isn't built just by heating it in the fire.
Right. It's the cycles.
It's the rapid cooling and reheating those stress and recovery cycles that actually create the hardness and flexibility. The delays, the pauses, they're like the cooling moments that set the newly acquired skill structure or the emotional strength permanently.
That's a great connection. And speaking of recovery, the power of rest is inextricably linked to this kind of deep patience, this emotional endurance. Many high achievers, maybe especially language learners, feel that resting is akin to quitting or being lazy.
If I'm not studying, I'm falling behind.
Exactly that mindset. But rest isn't passive inactivity. It's active recovery. It's a fundamentally necessary component of the overall process of learning and growth.
Why is it so necessary?
Well, for one, you simply cannot maintain emotional endurance or cognitive consistency if you are constantly running on empty. Your brain needs downtime. Rest allows the brain to consolidate memories, to take the day's learning, all those messy new neural connections, and properly integrate them into long-term storage during sleep and quiet waking moments. A break isn't wasted time, it's actually scheduled learning time for your brain.
And psychologically, taking an intentional break creates distance. Okay?
Yes. And distance gives perspective. It creates a necessary space, a buffer between the problem, that confusing English essay prompt, that difficult conversation you need to have, and your immediate, often anxious reaction to it.
And in that space,
In that space, wisdom can emerge, calm can return. You can finally apply the growth mindset we keep talking about.
instead of falling to that fixed mindset trap,
Why me? Why is this so hard? Why am I stuck?
you shift to reflection. Okay, what can I actually learn here? How does this obstacle maybe help me refine my strategy or understand myself better?
It is that crucial moment you stop saying, I'm stuck, and you start saying, I'm learning. Challenges stop being these catastrophic barriers designed to break you.
And they start becoming opportunities that actually transform you.
Exactly. They stretch your emotional capacity, they deepen your self-awareness, they force creativity, and they ultimately reveal what you are truly capable of enduring and achieving.
So patience in the face of real emotional hardship, it becomes the ultimate indicator of character strength, doesn't it?
It really does. And it ensures that when success finally does arrive, whether it's fluency or a career goal or personal peace, it's not just some fleeting, fragile victory. It's a stable, sustainable result built on solid internal foundations. Slow growth might not always feel exciting in the moment,
No, usually doesn't.
but it's the only kind of growth that truly lasts and fundamentally shapes who you become.
You learn not to break every time life or your learning journey gets hard. You become wiser, more self-aware. You stop being simply reactive to life's circumstances.
And you start responding to them intentionally, strategically, patiently.
And that intentionality, that calm response, it must change your whole energy, how you approach everything.
It does. Patient people, those who cultivate this skill, seem to understand that everything worthwhile, whether it's language acquisition, building a meaningful career, raising a family, or just achieving emotional maturity, has its own natural rhythm.
They don't try to force things before their time.
Exactly. They work with the process. They allow things to grow naturally and therefore more powerfully. They move with time, not constantly fighting against it.
Embracing the inevitability of that slow sunrise we talked about.
And understanding that slow doesn't mean late, it often just means deep. You're not just racing through life ticking boxes. You're being present. You're learning from every phase. You're strengthening your core along the way.
So the time you spend waiting, if you wait wisely,
Is never truly wasted. It is always, in some way, time spent preparing. That is the quiet, unseen foundation under every kind of lasting success and fulfillment. Hashtag out.
Wow. Okay, so if we try to synthesize this entire deep dive, bring it all together, the final lesson feels incredibly clear, doesn't it? Patience isn't just some nice-to-have habit you practice occasionally.
No, it's much more fundamental. It's a profound way of growing and really of becoming.
Mm.
The strongest things in the natural world, think about the deepest tree roots, the hardest diamonds, even the most fluent, adaptable minds. They don't grow fast, they grow deep.
And patience is that vital connection, that bridge between your quiet, small, consistent actions today and your profound, lasting success tomorrow. It transforms that internal anxiety into a calm, steady resolve.
It teaches you to work with time, not constantly struggle against it, and it ensures that your knowledge, your skills, your character are all built on a rock-solid foundation, not on
You
sand.
stop rushing and you start trusting, trusting the integrity of the learning process itself.
Trusting the surprising efficacy of those small, consistent daily steps.
And maybe most importantly, trusting in yourself,
Yeah.
trusting your own ability to keep showing up, to keep returning, even when it feels really hard or pointless. That quiet self-trust that feels like the real miracle that patience delivers.
It really is. So, if you're listening right now and you feel discouraged, maybe stuck, maybe frustrated in your learning journey, whether it's English or anything else, please remember this. You are growing slowly.
Not failing.
You are not failing. You are building deep roots. Slow growth is absolutely still growth. And honestly, it's the only kind of growth that truly sustains you through challenges and fundamentally shapes who you become in the process.
You're not just struggling to reach some external goal like fluency. You are actively, right now, becoming the person who can effortlessly handle that success, that fluency when it arrives.
That's such a crucial final thought. Patience doesn't actually delay your dreams, it prepares you for them. It ensures you're ready. You are not just reaching your goals, you are becoming the person who can hold them, sustain them, and use them wisely.